My name is Nur Azhara. I will start with the introduction. So, as we know, integrity is one of the most important cornerstones in ensuring that government services are delivered efficiently and effectively. However, there's no denying that there are small number in public services have deviated from the road of integrity and engaged in corruption behavior. Corruption in defense sector will give a negative impact towards the country as it will weaken the country's defense sector. Other countries will refrain from cooperating with Malaysia in the defense sector with the non-transparent management. As what happened in Malaysia, there are recent incidents that happened in the year of 2020 that show Malaysia's weakness in the tackling corruption to the extent of receiving a prograde as low as D rating after recording a score of 45% for the Government Defence Integrity Index in the defence industry, as acknowledged by the Transparency International Malaysia. According to the Transparency International Defence and Security, based on data collected from August 2019 to June 2021, Malaysia is assessed to have a high risk of corruption in its defence sector. There are also several issues recognized in defence sector, such as poor legislative oversight of the defence sector's budget, low competitive bidding for procurements, a lack of data transparency, and no independent ombudsman to address complaints. Defence Ministry of Malaysia Mandef is the main ministry in charge of this issue. The key function of the ministry are to be responsible for the issue. To cope the issue, the Defence Ministry will give its full cooperation to the government's Special Investigation Committee on Procurement, Governance and Finance. Mandef will also investigate all issues in the ministry through the committees that has been set up under their department.
I will proceed with the issue of this article. There are several issues that arise in this article that is related with corruption. The first issue is low competitive bidding for procurement. To relate with the article given, low competitive bidding for procurement is one of the issue of corruption in defence sector. First of all, we need to know what is actually defence procurement. Defence procurement is the process through which authorities in the field of defence acquire the various goods, services, or works they need in order to perform their duties and mission. And next, what is low bid procurement? Low bid procurement is the most common procurement procedure used for selecting a supplier that provide the lowest responsive price. The bidding process is particularly vulnerable to fraud and can be difficult to detect, especially within the large organization with complex procurement operation. A low competitive bid from contractor or supplier cannot meet the specification, requirement, need, and the price for defence sector. For example, one of the issues that relate with low bidding procurement is in 2017. The news report concerning the RM300 million deals to acquire lightweight combat helicopter from American aerospace giant McDonnell Douglas. Two will have been delivered in July 2017, with the remaining 4 in December 2018. To date, 35% of the contract value, which is RM112.65 million, has already been paid, but they still didn't receive the helicopter. Next, the second issue is no independent ombudsman. No independent ombudsman can lead to corruption since there are no platform to address complaints in defence sector. They are very important to establish the office of the ombudsman in Malaysia to protect the transparency and accountability in defence structure. The issue that will arise without ombudsman is dispute between citizen and public official, maladministration, corruption, abuse of power, and misappropriation of public funds, especially in the defence sector. The Ombudsman will also complement the effort of the other anti-corruption enforcement agencies, as well as they provide additional check and balance to our current system. As mentioned in the article, the author urged the government to seriously look at the high risk of corruption in the defence sector and take measures to mitigate the situation. For example, in this article, the author suggests to establish ombudsman to investigate the issue of what was happening to the delivery of literal combat ship and McDonnell MD-503G helicopters, which had been long delayed and involved taxpayers' money. So, by the establishment of the Ombudsman, in Malaysia, the wrongdoing and defence sector can be decreased.
Malaysia has scored low in an international index related to corruption in the defence sector. The sad part is that Malaysia is ranked with a score of 25 out of 100% in a 6-band rank, which exhibit very high risk of corruption amongst 21 other countries. The defence sector had long been held as the opacest area of government activity, with its budget transparency being restricted, owing to its sensitivity to the regime. The published defence budget provides only a general outline rather than a comprehensive breakdown of expenditure across the function. Since independence, defence issues are frequently raised in the House and range from the defence policy to arms procurement, national service and others. Nowadays, the attention of MPs can be roughly divided between concerns over the growing size of the defence budget and recurrent rumour of malpractices in weapons acquisition and capital expenditure by MINDEF. The classification of defence documents resulted in MPs lacking sufficient information to engage actively in debate or in the rejection of MPs' question by the House on different grounds. In the worst case scenario, MPs could be charged under the Official Secret Act (OSA) for possession of the documents. The lack of transparency in the procurement practices would lead to the purchase of outdated military equipment at a very high cost. This could cost them their life when there is a war, such as Lahad Datu Sabah. For example, in 2007, a review on the latest development of the Royal Malaysian Navy submarine base in Teluk Sepangga, Sabah, East Malaysia is presented in the House. Little information was revealed and attracted few MPs. On 2nd May 2008, YB Liu Chintong, DAP Bukit Bendera Penang, submitted his question on the maintenance cost and average flying hours for each year since 2004 of Royal Malaysia Air Force frontline fighter plane. However, his question was rejected by the House Secretary Rusmi Hamzah. He refused the question on the grounds that the information is restricted under the Official Secret Act 23 Clause 1, Clause F. For far too long, legislative oversight of defence has been neglected at the expense of people's well-being. Parliament and legislature play a crucial role in mitigating risks of defence and security corruption. However, the majority of them are underperforming. Parliament and legislature in 2/3 of the 82 countries reviewed have seriously insufficient controls that give rise to high or critical corruption risk in their Ministry of Defence and Armed Service. The result of Government Defence Anti-Corruption Index show the corruption level in Malaysia is high. This is because intervention from the legislature is reduced. They have only the most basic formal structures in place to examine and discuss defence strategy. Any external audits of the defence budget that takes place is either ineffectual or has the government's independence completely affected and destroyed.
I will explain about the next part, which is recommendation. The first recommendation is to implement anti-corruption tools in defence procurement. Lack of transparency in the procurement will make the procurement is less competitive. Due to the less competitive bidding for procurement, the defence sector is not able to select the best tender and gain great benefit. Lack of openness in procurement may result in the expensive purchase of outdated military equipment. Lack of transparency make the business owner do not want to join the procurement, so defence cannot find the best supplier that match their expectation and price. For example, the Ministry of Defence may use open tender and work with MACC to promote greater transparency in the procurement process, especially in the purchase of defence equipment. Therefore, it is important to implement anti-corruption tool in defence procurements to stop corruption, especially among members of defence sector, and give opportunity to more companies to join the procurement fairly. Demonstrating transparency in defence sector. Transparency is very important in defence sector to ensure the accountability and provide information. Every person in this country has right to know about the defence sector is doing, especially using the government expenditure. The government can reduce the corruption in defence sector with demonstrating transparency. As an example, the government can stop the corruption in defence sector by publish the defence policies and defence budget. They can discuss the expenditure in the parliament. MPs from both political parties should increase their oversight of the country defence budget. For example, the Government Defence Integrity Index (GDI) gave Taiwan an overall score of 70 out of 100 and a B grade along with 7 other countries including the United Kingdom and Germany. With well-established and effective parliamentary monitoring and strong external financial management control, the possibility of corruption in Taiwan defence sector is low. So, members of parliament must work together to ensure that the budget is acceptable and used properly. The administration can also avoid wasting government funds in the defence sector by taking this measure. Thus, the transparency will reduce the risk of corruption in defence sector.
My name is Nur Atika Hafsullah. So we will proceed with the third recommendation, which is establish an independent ombudsman. Ombuds institution for the armed forces are an essential part of any transparent and accountable defence sector. As independent and impartial institution, they play a crucial role in preventing and responding to both maladministration and human rights abuses, whether they affect civilians or members of the armed forces themselves. By receiving and investigating complaints as well as through reporting on thematic questions and systematic problems, Ombuds institution can have an important impact both on individuals as well as on the security sector and legislative environment as a whole. For example, in Ireland, there are Office of Ombudsman, defence forces that will receive the complaint from a member or a former member of the Defence Forces of Ireland that have been treated unfairly and will give the information about how to process a complaint. The prevention of corruption and human rights violation are essential in a democratic society. The prevention relies in part on the existence of a defence sector that is both transparent and accountable. Such transparency and accountability can be only guaranteed through the establishment of independent and impartial bodies and the endowing of such bodies with the necessary resources and powers. It is entirely separate, distinct and independent of both the military chain of command and the Department of Defence and complies with the generally recognised principle of ombudsman. Next is lobby the government to introduce laws ensuring that parliaments and legislature have the legal authority to scrutinise, legislate and debate defence matters, including secret defence budget and the intelligence services, as well as defence institution and sites. By having the legal authority to check and monitor the action of defence sector, it will prevent corruption to occur. This is because the parliament have the authority to debate, to ask and to discuss about the budget that goes to the defence sector. In Malaysia, mostly in parliament, they do not discuss about the defence sector deeply because it is confidential. Since it is about defence, so it is about the safety of citizens. In this case, if it is about the secret defence budget, then a closed parliamentary committee that scrutinise secret spending and the intelligence services must be established. For example, Defence Minister Datuk Ishamuddin Hussein said a focus of defence budget will be to upgrade the infrastructure of Malaysian Armed Force with the RM16 billion. However, why does they do not use the money allocated last year for them to upgrade the infrastructure on the last year while the aims were the same? Does the money before this not enough? Or are they even work for it? So we can see that the defence sector's budget must be looked into deeply to ensure that the money that have been given are being used for the meant purpose. This is to improve the effectiveness and efficiency in the utilisation of public funds.
As a conclusion, the progress of a country depends on intelligent and critical and courageous individuals to uphold justice in governing the country. Unaddressed corruption that happen will always give bad impacts towards the country, especially in the defence sector, as it will weaken the national defence, thus lead the country sit in dangerous situation. This is because of the other countries that avoid to cooperate with Malaysia due to the non-transparent management and higher corruption image if there are no action taken towards the issue. On the other hand, it will also lead to the economy's deterioration, on which will indirectly reduce the confidence of investors both within and outside of the country to invest. in the country. So that's all from us from Group 6.